All right, man. Um, we live. We just going I'm gonna go ahead and live 2 minutes early, dog.
Yeah,
Give
yeah, do
us
your thing.
give a chance to just make sure we're ahead of the hour or the hour. I think we do better
Uh,
when we're ahead of the hour.
of course, of course, of course.
And it also made me give me a chance to look at some things because I'm looking at some feedback stuff. People out there, folks, we gonna get tuned in just 2 minutes. Um, Give us 2 minutes. We'll be tuned. All right, man. We live. We just give it.
Of course. Yes, what it is with Jay.
All right, took care of the main thing I needed to take care of. See, we got 4 people watching. We appreciate y'all 4 people tuning in. Just give us not one more minute, and we'll be having a discussion on it is what it is. Don't get caught by the itis. It is what it is. Don't get caught by the itis. Here with Jay Jones and my good friend, my partner, my ace boon coon with his cash app in his name, Dr. Marion
Yep.
C. Pugh. He want to make
Yeah,
sure
man.
y'all know, just in case the man might be struggling just for one day or two. He ain't gonna struggle for long because I ain't gonna let that happen. But he's struggling one moment or
No,
two,
no,
or you just feel the kindness of your heart. Just go ahead and cash app that man. He won't.
no.
He'll be greatly appreciated.
I mean, I'm gonna tell you some wild stuff. I used to think, I used to be like, man, why people put cash up in their names until people started showing me what happens when they do that.
Mm-hmm.
I do not care anymore, sir. Like for real, I do not care. You have like it look a certain way, but I ain't gonna lie to you, man. You'd be surprised, what can be created if you give people an opportunity to support you. So
Hey
I'm
man,
just
and you
putting it
never
up there.
you never know
For
when
real.
somebody want to bless you. So I'm gonna put my cash app name in my thing next go around. That way I might
Yeah,
be a
you got
blessing too.
to.
You know what I'm saying?
Why
We up to
not?
9 people. We up to 9 people. What's going on, Mr. Julius Hall? Mr. Julius Hall just said, "What's up? What's up, Mr. Julius
Mm-hmm.
Hall?" Appreciate you taking the time to tune in with us on this Thursday. I was gonna
Yeah.
cancel the show, but I said, man, you know what? It's no use in canceling the show. We didn't plan anything, y'all. So
Of
we gonna do
course.
what the bros do, and what the bros
Yeah.
do is we are great at ad libbing the show. So what
Yeah,
we're gonna
man.
do is ad lib the show today. It is what it is. Kind of, if you have a topic you want us to discuss when it comes to the issues of African Americans from a middle class perspective, or from a perspective, an educated perspective, or whatever kind of perspective you want to see talked about, this is your time. This is your time to shine. We're gonna take whatever comments you put in the comment section, and we're gonna use it as a literal base of what we want to talk about. It's a couple of
Yeah.
things that we had talked about prior to going live this today.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to get into some subject matter in reference to kids. Both of us have hard passion and great hearts when it comes to the younger generation, making sure that they step into the threshold of being better than what we are and where we come from. And I
Right.
always talk to Dr. Pugh about the fact that I'm in a lot of circles where I'm at, and a lot of times I wish I had mentors older than me that
Mm-hmm.
kind of held my hand, kind of showed me the way and direction, but at the same time, same token, I also tell Dr. Pugh that God don't make mistakes, and so maybe it was
Right.
meant for me to go through a rough hassle, so therefore I wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
tripped up by any kind of roadblocks that may be presented before me. A lot of times when we talk to
Mm-hmm.
my older elders, they always try to be restrictive in their conversation. Say, "Hey, man, you might not want to do this. You might not want to do that." Where me being in the background and not having to be not tied to anything that was restrictive in my behavior, I would move forward with steadfastness and abundance and understanding that I can fix and create and fight against any kind of barrier that comes before me. And so I pride
Mm-hmm.
myself on being able to talk in all kind of subject matter and all kind of courses. And I pride
Mm-hmm.
myself in making sure I hang with people like Dr. Pugh, because what Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Pugh is going to do is he's going to challenge my intellect. And that's one thing we need more in our life, is to make sure we got a group of people around us that's going to challenge us and not
Mm-hmm.
belittle us, or put us on a pedestal and say we're greater than good or greater than great. I don't need that in my
Mm-hmm.
life right now. I need somebody who's
Right.
going to put me in my place and say, "Hey, Jay, there's something you should be doing, and there's some things you shouldn't be doing, and this is what you need to be doing." But I need it to come from a genuine heart. I don't need
Right.
nobody telling me I shouldn't do something just because they're
Right.
afraid that I'm going to outdo them, or because
Right.
they're afraid of the narrative of me being greater than what they may have done because they chose not to do it. I need people in my life who are going to be restrictive in their conversation and say, hey, Jay, this is the reason why you don't need to do it. But hey, if you do it and you fail, I'm still going to stand behind you and support you, because you know what? God has in store for you, but no man can take away from you. So with that
Facts.
being said, it is what it is. This is our weekly show every Thursday. We try to stick to the hardcore facts. We try to stick to national issues. We try to stick to those things that are core to our community and to our brand, without coming too close to home. Because my thing is, we want to focus on those national issues, those issues that affect African Americans, blacks. I have to put that out here, but Dr. Marion Pugh will tell you that African American, black, those are just labels. Those are categories we put into. There's subject matter just to divide us and so we can be conquered. But I have to use that dialect, because that's the only way y'all understand when I talk about identification marks. And when we become more conscious, we understand that we don't need those adjectives, descriptive language, because we are greater than whatever anybody on earth can describe us, because we are man's people. I mean, we are God's people, I should say. We are God's people, and what God has for you, no man on earth can take from you. So with that being
Facts.
said, I don't want to be considered that I'm rumbling or anything like that, but I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, my ace boon coon, Dr. Marion Pugh, and so he can enlighten us on some words, and he can get in some mischief of conversation. That's what I want to call it today. Mischief
Well,
of conversation today. So you got the
well,
floor, brother.
well, well, I put it like this. Well, first of all, thank you again for putting on a really good show on a very sturdy platform, concrete platform. One thing that I think about what you just said about the way people come and tell you to challenge you, to make you grow, to make you get better at what you do. It's almost like a personal trainer. Personal trainer doesn't impede you; he challenges you. He wants you to be stronger. He wants you to be more flexible. He wants you to progress. So the first thing I thought about was competition versus contribution. Are you competing or are you contributing? And I think that's what a lot of people may want to hear today. And one of the things that I tell people all the time, and I deal with several clients. I had a client yesterday that he is working in Texas, and he was just talking about he just started his job, just started his career, and he's dealing with a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of second guessing. He said he was dealing with imposter syndrome, thinking that he doesn't deserve where he's at. And so he has that feeling of looking over his shoulder quite a while. And what I wanted to do tonight, man, is kind of just share the conversation of what I had with the young man yesterday. So this young man has come from he comes from a very unique background, grew up with a lot of, I would say, verbal abuse, adverse comments about his body type, his mindset, the way he talks, the way he walks. I'm talking about he's been pretty much through it, just like a lot of us have. You know what I mean? Just that verbal comments. A lot of people say sticks and stones would break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Well, that's a good thing to say, but in reality, words have shaped realities for a lot of us. And for him specifically, and a lot of people in general, we have to be very, very careful about the spells that were put on us by other people who don't even know us. I'm going to say that again. Narratives that go unchecked too long become spells that go over our entire lives. So I want everybody to just at least think about some things that people have said to you in your life that have resonated with you, stuck with you, and end up becoming your identity. So I'm going to tell you this. One of the things I did tell the young man yesterday is like, some people who threw stones at you, they don't even remember doing it. And we got to make sure that we don't make certain people, just because they're hurtful, we have to be careful of making them powerful. I'm going to say that again. Just because people are hurtful, we choose to make them powerful. Now, if they're hurtful or not, that's out of our control. That's out of our scope of influence, right? They hurt us. You couldn't help that. They caught you off guard. They blindsided you, stabbed you in the back, all these other things. Now, when that hurt transfers into power, we have to take more accountability for that. And I think a lot of us, like we talked about the virtual learning when we started in August. We talked a lot about that third eye Visine. A lot of people had a lot of time to sit down during the pandemic and really do some reflection on their entire lives, man, and trying to figure out, where am I? And a lot of people find out for the first time, they are in a career they did not choose. They are in a career that they retreated to. I'm going to say that again, man. A lot of people are in careers they did not choose. They are in careers that they retreated to out of safety. And so when you are by yourself and all of a sudden you have to bring that career home, people start seeing their career for the very first time, Jay Jones.
I hear you, Doc.
A lot of people start seeing their career for the very first time. And a lot of them, a lot of us, and I say all of us, because honestly, I started looking at my career and I was like, am I doing the right thing? And, just because it feels good doesn't mean you're supposed to be doing it. So I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I did a lot of internal investigation when it came down to my career choice, my path, the things that I'm doing, the things that I'm trying to do, and the things that I have yet to do. So back to the young man, he heard so much stuff in his life that he literally transferred power to the people that hurt him. And one of the things that we had to practice last night, because sometimes I coach people out of them turning people into false gods. I try to make sure that we at least address the idols in our lives, man, to take them off those pedestals so we can look at those idols face to face so they will no longer be gods in our lives. Some of the things that people have said, we have taken their insults, we have taken their demeaning words, and we have made them idols, stones, things that we visit on a daily basis to try to prove people who are not even worth it wrong. I'm going to say that again. A lot of us spend a lot of years trying to prove a lot of people who are not even worth it wrong. You understand what I'm saying? It's all put like this. How many years would you spend trying to convince monopoly money it ain't real? I'm going to say it again. How many years would you spend trying to convince monopoly money it's not real? You already knew it wasn't real from the jump. But how long are you going to sit there trying to convince it that it doesn't apply to you? So he's at this job and he has supervisors or whatnot that come and give him quote unquote feedback. But this feedback has a little zest to it, I would say. Sometimes when people want you to feel dependent on them, they it's one thing about feedback, but some of this stuff, if you can't use it, I like to call it starve back. I'm gonna say it again. People who give you things you can use that can, help you survive, that's called feedback. But when people come up to you and take more energy away from you, that's called starve back. And so what's happening right now is a lot of times when people come at you and you have no idea how you're going to use that information, some people will try to force that information and internalize it just so they can move forward. So instead of just saying, hey, I'm confident in my career, I'm confident in my skill set, what they'll do is try to end up proving themselves. And I say this all the time. And you told me this a long time ago. Anytime when you're seeking approval, that's the way that you tell the world that you anytime that you are trying to prove yourself, you're letting the world know you need approval. I'm going to say it again. Anytime when you're going around trying to prove yourself, you're showing the world that you're looking for approval. And that's one of the biggest things that happens when we're doing false idol worship. And I'm not even talking about in a religious sense. I'm talking about in the most elemental, practical, simplistic sense. Us giving time, energy, labor, fear, concern to things that don't even shape our entire reality. That idol worship is a beast. And one of the things that I will tell you this, one thing that I've just noticed and experienced myself, sadness, depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, those are all side effects of false idol worship. And I'm not even talking about the religious sense. Could be, you can include it, but it's not just about religion. It's about people taking control over your life and they didn't even give you the keys. You understand what I'm saying? So right now, I would like to just, hopefully somebody can hear what I'm saying and whatever they're looking at and whatever they're experiencing, things in this life, life is a test. And, I presented at the National Youth at Risk Conference this past Tuesday, man. I was just talking to several people in the school system, and we're talking about all these young children at risk for certain things. And, when you work for the system, it's hard to challenge something that feeds you. You understand what I'm saying? It's hard to stand up to something that's literally in charge of you being able to feed your family. And I'm seeing a lot of teachers, a lot of administrators, they're at crossroads now because they're seeing. It's one thing about a pandemic. Remember, I told you it's the COVID-19 vaccine. Right now, some people have been sheltered in the school system. They didn't see all of this was happening. Now, since the pandemic happens, I know some people who are in control of, I would say, discipline right now. And I said, Dr. Pugh, all of the kids who got all the discipline write-ups, I thought it was bad before. It has quadrupled since the pandemic popped off. And it's the same kids, and the description of the behavior is a little bit more egregious now. They're using more legal words. And anytime when you're using legal words, that is the school to prison pipeline. When you're dealing with the school to prison pipeline, ladies and gentlemen, you are dealing with a court of law. And I want to tell my parents, my teachers, administrators, and community members right now, I would highly suggest you treat the campus of the school like a huge courtroom. You need to prepare your children for some of the things that are being said and the things that have been written about them. You need to pretend they're in a court of law because everything they say can and will be held against them.
So put a pin right there, because I don't think a lot of, and that's a good point that we don't never talk about in our community, in our society. Mm-hmm. I don't think many parents understand that when you start in the public school system in kindergarten, a folder is being developed with you that's following you all the way up to your 12th grade year.
Yep.
And so a discipline issue that happens to you in kindergarten, and let's say you never have another discipline issue until the 6th grade, that discipline issue will be the first thing they reference point when they start talking about that incident you had in the 6th grade. Now, mind you, you got 5 years in between where you didn't have any kind of discipline issue. And guess what? They still hold you hostage to what happened to you in kindergarten. And I don't think a lot of parents understand the magnitude of that, even how that affects you when you apply for colleges. Because, you know, colleges at one point in time were requesting your discipline record to see how you did, how you matriculated from kindergarten to 12th grade. And you think a simple fight that you had in the 9th grade won't be detrimental to you because you're not thinking about it in the 9th grade. But then when it comes time for you to graduate 4 years later, that discipline issue follows you and it goes with you when it comes time for you to enroll in certain schools and certain environments.
Facts.
So I think that we really, really need to focus on, I'm glad you brought that up. Parents out there who are listening, please take the time to understand what your child's discipline record looks like. Me and Keisha do a great job of following Johannes's academic record. And my thing is we follow his discipline record too, because, we ain't got no discipline problems. I think one time he had some issue in the 1st grade where, a little boy hit him and he told the teacher, and then the teacher didn't do nothing. So when the little boy hit him again, he hit him back. And so it became a different issue. But in that sensitive tone, I stepped up as a parent and said, hey, man, did Johannes hit the child first? He said, no. He came to me and told me about it. I said, and then my question to her was, okay, what did you do to defend Johannes? Because if he came and told you, then he came to you as his guiding force, because he understood if he hit that child back without, the first thing his dad was going to ask him is, what did you do? And he understood if he didn't say he told the teacher, he was going to catch it when he came home. So Johannes followed the protocol. The protocol step is, I went to an authority, and authority didn't take care of the issue, and I'm not going to let this thing keep bullying me and beat me up. I'm going to take care of my own issue because I'm old. I'm big enough to take care of my own issue. But I tried to let the authority step in. And see, my thing is people don't look at it. That shapes the mentality of a child later on in life. Because if they don't trust authority, then they're not going to respect authority.
That's
and so we talk about how these kids are in those communities where they say, F the police and this, that, and the third about the police and have no respect for the police. But my thing is, prior to them even understanding that authority figure as far as being a police, if they never had respect growing up through a system that should have not just teach them respect, but just gave an example of what you do when you call respect and authority, then they're not going to respect authority later on in life. So I just want to make sure I pointed at that point right there, because that was heavy in my heart at one point in time, because I did not like the fact that, it went from we were going to discipline Johannes, it went, but well, we just going to give him a warning. And I said, you damn right. Y'all going to give him a warning because, number one, he came to the authority. And my thing is, if I hear he come to authority again and it's not resolved, then we're going to have bigger problems in life.
Exactly.
And my thing is, I'm always, I try to make sure that Johannes makes his own way. Even at 8, I try to make sure he makes his own way because eventually in life, he's got to go through life without mama and daddy being there by his side. And the more experience I give him at the younger he is, then he will equip himself to be able to be built for society. But every parent don't think like that.
Right.
And I want to make sure we focus that every parent don't think like that, because if we have more parents that think like this, we would have less crime, we have less issues and everything like that. Now, mind you, I also understand about the other issues tied to crime where, if I'm hungry, I'm going to commit a crime. And, we don't ever want to talk about that fact. I'm hungry, going to commit crime. And if we don't create an equitable job force, we don't create an equitable job force, we don't create equitable housing arrangements or housing environments. We don't create equitable situations where I understand that when I stand in front of police, I call the police and the other person may be of another color, may be white. And when I call the police, they walk up straight to the white person. That there's an equity piece right there that can be they can be not transparent, because I've even had that situation in my life where I may have not been dressed up like the J. Jones y'all used to see and dressed up. I was dressed down in my casual wear, and I'm the one who called the police. And the police officer walked straight to the other person. And I'm looking at him like, I know this joker didn't just walk to this person. And my thing is, and then when he said, well, how would you, and then after I addressed the fact, well, how would you have liked me to come to the situation? What I would have liked you to do is bring both of us together and say, let me hear the story and allow both of us the opportunity to be the first one to speak. Because usually what I've learned in life is the first person who reacts usually gets that environment where they get the buddy pass side. And my thing is, you never want to be the secondary conversation of any kind of story. And so I always understood when the police come, I want to make sure they hear my story first. And then the other thing is, I want to make sure they know I got insurance, driver's license, and everything under the sun. And I'm legal, because we already get a bad drop that African Americans in general are always legally riding dirty or whatever the case may be. No, not all of us are like that. And some people who are in those situations, they're in those situations because we have an unequal system that forces us to sometimes hybrid outside of our normal circumstances. Because I know a lot of people that would much rather live a better life than what they live in, but have never been given the opportunity to make it in society. And reason why that is because we talk about all the time. Politics is the factor when it comes to that thing right there. Money, who's making it and who's taking it is always a big factor, the factor in that thing right there. And we think that we go out there and we do things right, we'll be able to get right come back to us. And a lot of times that don't always happen because there's a deflective shield out there that prevents the normalcies from actually making things happen like that. So, I didn't want to elaborate too hard on that, too long.
No.
But I do want to bring up the fact that, I get tired of the fact that, even James coming from a two-parent household. Both my father worked damn near 60, 70 hours a week to make sure me, my sister, and my mama had everything we wanted. My mama worked 40, 50 hours a week to make sure me and my sister had everything we wanted. We were a middle-class family that lived above a middle-class standard. And so, some people say, well, James had a silver spoon or whatever case may be in his mouth. So, I appreciate my parents stepping out to do that because you know what? They didn't have to do that. But they did it, and they understood sacrifice for their kids was more important than anything else in this world. And my thing is, but every parent is not given that opportunity to do that. And a lot of times, we talk about how the male sometimes leaves. I always see stories where the man left the house when the child was at 9, 10, 8, 7, 6, because he saw the stress and the circumstances preventing him from being able to provide the way he wanted to provide, and it became hard. The hustle became unreal and all that stuff like that. You see these stories all the time, and most of those stories affect us in the African American community. But what are we doing as a people to kind of change the dialogue as that piece is concerned? What are we doing to, if we need to reinvent the village mentality, Or
Yeah.
do we need to infiltrate the church and make the church stand for what its mission stand for? You know, the
Yeah.
church mission is supposed to be wholeheartedly and standing. And you know, a lot of these
Mm-hmm.
churches nowadays don't live by their creed, they mission.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and
Mm-hmm.
God ain't gonna punish me for that. They're gonna punish them because they ain't living by their creed or their mission. So, you
Facts.
know, I'm about to get off my pedestal, man, because you know my heart is starting to get enraged. I hear my voice starting to get, and I need to go and get me some
That's
water
real.
because you know what? I'm just tired of society not making the course to make it fair and right for us as far as what we need to do. Before I let
Yeah.
you go though, let me go ahead. Vanessa said that's
Yeah.
right. If they don't trust the police, they're not gonna go. They're not
Mm-hmm.
going to respect them either. Yeah, and I agree
Mm-hmm.
with you. Vanessa also said
Mm-hmm.
speak. Vanessa also said workforce housing is workforce housing. All that stuff is good. We need to come up with a game plan, you know, across the whole United States where we can do that. Another thing that I'm not gonna go into deep detail, and I'm gonna open up a can of worms, and you're gonna smile when I open up this can of worms. Another thing that was never given to us, it was promised to us, and it was taken away from us after they killed Abraham Lincoln, was appropriations. We never got anything when we got freed as slaves. Our ancestors almost how many 150 years to the almost 160 170 years from slavery
Mm-hmm.
being emancipation proclamation, all of that stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're still waiting on reparations as far as moving the narrative forward and making it
Mm-hmm.
equitable and fair as far as African Americans are concerned. But you know, I'm not gonna get on that platform pedestal because that goes into a whole nother conversation. You know, another thing is that we don't, you know, a lot of folk don't want to address that we are only 150 170 years removed from slavery.
I think
Our
we need to.
grandparents, our great
Yeah.
grandparents were slaves. A lot of people don't even want to respect that and think about that mentality and everything like that.
All
Like I
right.
said,
All
I'm
right.
rambling now, dog, because I'm gonna get on my soapbox and I'm gonna get real agitated, irritated. I know
No.
we want to concentrate on certain things, all, but Melinda says she's present, and Toriano Johnny said, "What's up, Johnny?" Thoroughly indoctrinated into a culture of mediocrity,
Mm-hmm.
meaning many of our people are, and I agree with you.
That's
I think
facts.
mediocrity is probably one of the greatest downfalls we can ever have. I
Right.
think we chase what we should consider as assets.
Mm-hmm.
We treat them like liabilities, and we treat liabilities as assets. And I think we have
Mm-hmm.
switch code those things. We take shoes, we take clothes, we take even our cell phone, our Macs, our Xbox and stuff like that, and those become things that we want to value as assets. And we don't teach home ownership. We don't teach investments like getting in the stock market or investing in the owning of business or making sure you have multiple streams of income. We don't teach these ideologies in our community no more. We don't teach politics in our community no more, and that's why we suffer the most. I'm done, man. I want to make sure I read all the comments, man. Chris, I know I always leave you in a pitfall point where the ball got to be pushed into the hole, but then
No.
so
I'm with it.
go ahead. I mean,
No, I'm
jump
with
in,
it.
man.
No, I'm with it. I'm with it. So basically, some of the things I was writing down as you were talking, the mediocrity, like that is so. I think it has to be discussed on so many different levels. And I wrote down, Lord, certain power structures lower the bar simply so you can hit your head when you rise up. Some people lower the bar just so you can hit your head when you're rising up. So what a lot of people may not understand, like say for instance, a lot of people who are in corporate America, you know that you're at your job right now, you're doing your best. And I have so many clients right now that they're in corporate America, they got good paying jobs, they're at a position. But when they're in those positions, Jay, their greatness is either under supported or it's actually tried to be manipulated or attacked, right? So you got a lot of bright minded individuals. They get hired into a company. They go into the company. The first thing they see is how much stuff is just not working, right? All of a sudden they go to the boardroom and they say, hey, these are some things I'm saying, man. We can really take this to the next level. Either they take those ideas and don't give credit, or they'll just put a glass ceiling on top and say, well, not right now, we'll table that. And all of a sudden, you got this person who wants to go past the bar, but that bar is right there of mediocrity and making sure that the company is literally just a revolving door of people who are underqualified who are raised to the top. And a lot of people may not understand this. In corporate America, it's not necessarily about being the best. It's making sure that the power resides on one side. I'm going to say that again. A lot of things in corporate America, it's not about being the best at what they do. It's about making sure power is conserved on one side. What do y'all think what conservative means? A lot of people need to start asking when someone says they're conservative or when they say they're a liberal, you might want to ask about what? Like, you understand what I'm saying? Because right now we're having too many assumptions. And when someone says conservative or liberal, we just get to talking and we start going back and forth and arguing and all this other stuff. Everybody's conservative and liberal about something. Everybody. It's some people I will lend cash to and some people I will never lend cash to. That's conservative and liberal at the same time. But what a lot of people may not understand is you always need context if you're going to get a vocabulary word. A lot of people say, hey, man, I'm conservative. And one thing I find out when it comes down to conservatism, they're conserving the power. They're conserving the money. They may be conserving the influence. And when you're conservative, you're trying to make sure you survive and the people you care about survive. That's what it is. And so sometimes I put like this. If you're a father in a capitalistic society, I think you have no choice but to be conservative. If you're a father or a parent, you can say a mother, anybody who's in charge of a household, you're not feeding every child on the planet. You're feeding yours. You're making sure your family can eat. You're making sure your car works. You're making sure your house has a roof. You understand what I'm saying? So when it comes down to these words, man, I think sometimes we're so used to going at each other that we don't even know exactly what people are saying. So I've said we are literally going to a good place where we can just sit back and start and think and ask questions instead of making statements. Because right now in politics is full of statements instead of full of questions. I think we'll get much farther as a human race if we have more questions than we do answers. Now, let me finish this real quick. It says, you're talking about Johannes, man, and this is what I want everybody to ponder and question. Have you ever noticed that discipline is mostly geared towards young people? Okay. The discipline. Now you got to ask yourself, what is discipline? You have no discipline if you don't have consistency. This is what I want everybody to understand. Children get undisciplined when they see something that's not disciplined. Children emulate. You know what I'm saying? If they don't have the words to vocally express how they feel, they do what they see first. That's literally their first language on the planet. Mm-hmm. I see it. I'm going to try it out. That's their way of researching. Emulation. So guess what happened? Yes, it's emulation. Emulation is the first level of education. I hope somebody remembers that. When you're dealing with children, emulation is the first level of education. So when people are growing up, I have a mother right now. She's like, my son won't listen. My son won't do what I asked him to do. I said, have you emulated it in front of him? Have you literally walked and shown him how to do what you're asking him to do? He's not disobedient. He's underexposed of your expectations. You see what I'm saying? Wow. So now we got kids in the school system. Follow my orders. I don't know exactly what you mean. Come show me. Come show you. Are you talking back? Go to the office. So right now you're just sitting there as a kid like, I don't have any protection here. So let me ask everyone this. How does everybody respond when they know they're not protected? I'll ask that question again. How does the average human being respond when they know they're not protected by an external force? They begin to protect themselves. What did you say Johannes did when that young man hit him? Went to go to the authority. The authority did not protect. So guess what Johannes had to do? His basic human instinct was like, if I can't depend on adults to protect me, let me go show this other cat I mean business. Like it was literally logic. He wasn't even going against the protocol at that moment. Guess what happens? The law of nature presents its first protocol. See, the protocol of man and the protocol of nature is two different things. Amen. We can follow orders and rules all day, but self-preservation is the law of the land. That's what a lot of people may not understand. So Johannes said, look, my daddy laid down the law. The school laid down the law. I'm going to go try to see if it's disciplined and consistent. As soon as the young man hit him, he went to the authority, said, somebody hit me. The dude didn't do anything. Guess what happened? The authority had no discipline. Now check this out. If the authority just saw that young man get assaulted or heard about it and did not even address it, there is no discipline in the school. So guess what happened? The lack of discipline starts with the adult. When the kids take things into their own hands, it's because a lot of the hands of the adults either are non-existent or their hands are tired. Have you ever heard any adult say, "Well, Mr. Jones, my hands are tired. I know Johannes he wasn't in the wrong, but my hands are tired." Guess what happens? Think about this. In corporate America, a lot of people's hands are tired. Mm-hmm. So why do you think children are putting things in their own hands, taking things in their own hands now? Because we got too many adults with tied up hands. That's what we're dealing with. And so if we don't start addressing that, we're going to start blaming the children for the discipline. They don't even have enough power to basically set up for themselves. They put like this: how you going to emulate if no one is showing you? How you going to learn how to do it if no one actually shows you? You're going to go out there and try to learn on your own, make mistakes, and guess what happens? You end up being overly disciplined because the adults around you were not disciplined or consistent in the first place. So as a child, you're saying, well, if you didn't show me, and every time I try, I get punished, I think I'm going to try everything on my own from now on. What you think? You know what I'm saying? And I wrote this down. If you refuse to protect, the kids are going to refuse to respect. I'm going to say that again.
Okay, I like that.
If the authority and the adults refuse to protect, the kids, by nature and by the law of cause and effect, they're going to refuse to respect. How can you respect something that does not protect you? Put like this. I would say this. If you ever notice they used to make cars back in the day, if you hit something, that car would not budge because they made it out of better material.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So would you get in a car with no airbag right now? Would you get in a car with no seatbelt right now?
No.
Guess what happens? If you clearly see something that's not going to protect you, you wouldn't even involve yourself with that vehicle or that person if you know for a fact they're not going to protect you, right? That's how children feel in the school system. They're walking into a huge vehicle, no airbags, no brake system, no seat belts. Hell, some of these schools don't even have steering wheels, Brother Jones. And as soon as something happened, they fly right out the windshield. And the only thing they're going to do is saying, well, look at the kids. This must be a bad car because we got bad kids. No, it don't work like that. It just does not work like that. Last thing, and I'll put it back over to you. This is what I want everybody to start thinking about. And I want you to respond to this. This is a scenario that I want you to respond to because I was thinking about Johannes a lot when you told me that scenario. I went through that scenario, and half of my siblings, my family members, and my closest friends went through that scenario where you get retroactive discipline. It's not proactive. It's retroactive. It's too little, too late. And you end up being the victim and the villain at the same time. Mm-hmm. Why do you think most of our kids having personality problems? Because you could be the victim and the villain. You don't know what to do, right? So check this out. Now, Jones, have you ever been hunting or you ever heard anyone going hunting? You ever heard someone hunting before? Have you ever been hunting?
Yes, I have.
All right. What do you do with your eyes? If you want to make sure you get what you came for, what do you do with your eyes?
I make sure they focus. I make sure they're clean. I make sure I got my other set of glasses. I have my other set of eyes on my glasses so I can be as keen as possible. So I can make sure whenever it's time for me to meet my target, I can have the most accurate moment to be able to do what I got to do when I'm hunting.
Is it safe to say you keep your eyes on your target?
Of course.
And when anything that you're targeting, you're hunting. Is that correct?
Yes.
How do you think our children feel when an adult goes up to them and says, "I got my eye on you"?
They feel that they're prey to some kind of issue that's getting brought to them.
Now, have you ever seen someone go hunting and the prey starts to realize they may be hunted at that moment?
They jump, they run.
They jump and run. What if jumping and running was against school rules, Brother Jones?
Then that person would be disciplined for just have a natural reaction to what was brought to that child.
Picture yourself as a child in this system, not only the school system, but the social system. What if you know you're being hunted, but running and jumping is against the rules too? What do you do?
I mean, you try to find an alternative way where you don't break the rules. But
every alternative. It's
But
against
you
the rule.
breaking. Well, you in a lot of trouble, man. Because
You
I
can't
mean,
move. You're
yeah,
not grabbing your wallet. You're not grabbing your wallet, are you?
no.
You're not. You're not moving. Like I told you. I told you to stay still. Didn't I? You're not moving, are you? But I'm hunting you. But you're not jumping and running, are you? I'm screaming
No.
at you a little bit because when children hear a loud tone of voice, their nerves get to shaking a little bit. You're not moving, are you? Like your body
Why?
has
Why?
ears.
Why
Your
is your voice
ears.
getting? Why is your voice getting deeper?
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, if you're put like this, have you ever heard somebody get pulled over by someone of authority and say they look at them and they're already looking down, tell them they eye on you, and they telling them that you're hunting you, and they ask this one question: why are you so nervous? You got something to hide? So this is what this is what a lot of people need to start thinking about. When somebody's keeping their eye on you, that is the beginning of the hunting process. No one keeps an eye on someone they're trying to protect. You're keeping an eye on someone that you're trying to hunt, especially if that person has a record. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? And those records are always discussed in the teacher's lounge, all these closed meetings, meetings in society. And remember, everybody's not a victim. Everybody's not a villain. But if what I'm saying, I'm pretty sure everybody knows I'm not lying. Because either you've seen it or you experienced it. Brother Jones, what you got to say about that? You're mute. You're on mute.
Thank you, dog. We got a
Yeah.
wow. We got a. They go on the attack. We got a D. All that is a plan to destroy. Yeah, I don't disagree with any of those comments. Shouts out, Mr. Evans, Mr. Grady, Mr. Johnny. Appreciate y'all checking
Yo.
in with us. All that is all that is premeditated. And this is I'm gonna speak from a different perspective. Since you gave him perspectives, I'm gonna give a different perspective. Think about it from a politician's perspective. Think about somebody who is in a political perspective as a local authority that has to make policy, rules, and regulations in regard to scenarios that play around us. And you're in that authoritative position, and you know there's inadequate housing. You know that poverty exists. You know that scenarios of crime outweigh in certain communities over other communities, and you see the fact that there's no policy being created to change any of those three narratives that I just spoke of earlier. And so then you go to your peers and have these discussions with your peers saying, hey man, your area is probably one of the worst crime areas in our community. What are you going to do about it? Man, I ain't got time to be doing all that, man. That's like work. Or you go to another one and say, hey man, your area is probably one of the big areas that has issues when it comes to housing issues and stuff like that. Hey man, I ain't got time to be fighting and arguing about that kind of stuff. What we don't realize and what we don't see, and I think that has a lot to do with why it's hard to get politicians into play that actually do right by people, is because when we're in these positions and when you're those positions of authority, you're charged to come out and challenge the narrative and make things better for us.
Right.
And then you get in that position, and I'm gonna tell you now, if you get in that position and you're inadequate as far as the knowledge how to matriculate through the process of developing policy or being able to have it where you develop strong relationships with your community and communities outside your communities, or you're not in the leadership role, or you're not the chair or the president or whatever the case may be, and you have to supplement from the lower levels of making sure government works for everybody else. These things and these factors affect us dearly and post haste. And I talked about this several times on different kind of shows. We've actually had these conversations. You can ride through a city. I do this, Dr. Pugh. When I go out of town, this is what I do. When I get off the airplane, I can catch an Uber. I can catch it. But you know what I did? I would get on the bus because I always wanted to learn how the means of transportation work from the airport to the hotel downtown, because we always stay in the hotel downtown. And I wanted to know, and seeing that, I would also get a rental car every now and then. And what I would do is I would just get in the car and get lost. And when you drive around and you get lost, you can tell without even looking at a council meeting or commission meeting, school board meeting, anything like that. You can tell which communities had bad representation when it came to their policymakers and which communities had good communication when it came to their policymakers. And you can just ride around and look and see who had the good politicians and the bad politicians. And then guess what? Then and see, technology is so well now, you can just hit Google and say Fifth Ward, and you put Google Fifth Ward New Orleans, and he put it in Google search, and you'll see that the Fifth Ward New Orleans is probably the worst ward in New Orleans. And I don't know if it is the worst ward or anything like that, but if it's the worst ward in New Orleans, you can Google it and you can see that crime is associated to those areas. You can see poverty is associated to those areas. And you can see, then you can look at the list and you say, hey, well, who's been the politicians all those times in those positions? And you can look and say, well, dang, you had all these people playing politics. And guess what? They've done anything to fix that situation, fix that scenario. And so when you see these things, Dr. Pugh, all these things tie right back into bad narratives when it comes to schools, bad narratives when it comes to communities, bad narratives when it comes to crime and policy and stuff like that. And a lot of times we don't take the time to look to see what kind of policies are being presented to make things right. I've sat back. I do a good job locally here to make sure I look at all the state reps and state senators to see what kind of policy they put out there. For the most part, we don't get much good policy because, a lot of times when it comes to it, our people are in situations, in seats where they're pretty much guaranteed to win year in and year out unless somebody runs against them from the same party. So if they're a Republican, only a Republican win that seat. If they're a Democrat, only a Democrat can win that seat. And so what we have done, and this is not just my area locally, this is across the United States of America. So what has happened is now you have politicians who are ingrained in seats for 40, 50, 70 years, a lifetime ingrained in these seats. And rather than chastising them for being in them seats, we congratulate them for being in the seat for 40, 50 years. And you understand and know if somebody's been in the seat for 40, 50 years, they don't know nothing about technology. No. They don't know nothing about how we maneuver, even as a 40-year-old or as a 30-year-old or a 20-year-old or a 10-year-old. Because you know what? They have been so far removed from life, but they've been put in these political positions and kept in those political positions because there was a generation way before me and you that understood that political power was based on access. And those people who are in access of power control the narrative. And you know what? It's easy to control the narrative for 5 minutes. It's greater to control it for 50 years. And always remember this, and I say this all the time, and me and you always share this point. Power is not given.
It ain't.
Power is not given. And guess what? And right now, and I know somebody gonna get mad at me, but guess what? I'm not cheering for Democrat power or Republican power to have that kind of power. I think power, even if it's Democrat power, it should be transcended to the next Democrats, and it should be transcended to the next Democrats. It shouldn't always be infused in somebody's hands for a lifetime. We need to make sure that power is trained. It's my job. It's my obligation to say, Dr. Pugh, this is the jewels that I don't want you to suffer through, brother. And so guess what? I'm going to empower you for what I suffered from. So if you suffer from it, you either going to have two reactions from it. You're going to have a softer blow than what I had to deal with, or you're going to know how to counteract against that problem. And hopefully you'll be able to counteract against that problem so they don't never present that bullcrap to you ever again. Because you know why it's important for me to transition that power to you, brother, is because guess what? In turn, if anything happened to me, if anything happened to you, God forbid, I know for a fact, if you see Johannes Jones, you got my full authority and position to step in as an authority figure and say, I know this child and I know where he comes from. And you know what? You're not going to put your hands on this child. Now, I may want to put my hands on this child, but you're not going to put your hands on this child because you don't know his parent. You don't know his mother. You don't know his father. You don't know his family. You don't know where he come from. And that's what we got to do. We got to do a better job of transitional power. Because if we're not willing to do a transitional power like we should, then we're going to lose our community. And that's the reason why we have lost our community. We have elders fighting against the working class. You have the working class fighting against the mentors that we supposed to be, the mentees we supposed to be mentoring. And we got the kids growing up without any kind of guidance at all. And that's why our narrative is destroyed and jacked up, brother. Because the only way we're going to fix the problem is everybody's got to fit in their cycle. And you know I'm big on that cycle stuff, dog.
Right.
You have that
Right.
generation that's supposed to be the generation who's supposed to be the wise ones, the mentors, and they're supposed to be guiding force. But they're not supposed to be the ones in the seats of the working class. And you have the working class group who's supposed to be working the narrative. They're the defenders of the tribe.
The energy. They're the energy.
They're the energy. They're the defenders of the tribe. And now as they're working, you got the generation who, you know, that's your senior workers, and you have your generation right behind the senior worker who are your new workers. And they're learning from the senior workers so they can learn how to take over. And it's my job as a senior worker to be saying, hey, as a junior worker, I want you to take this task, because if you fall, I'm there to help you out, because I don't want you to fall and I'm not there to help you out. And then it's upon us both to be mentors to that next generation. So when they get ready to plow that field and take over, then they have that sword and that shield and they're able to defend. And then guess what? We all got to be in front of those babies, because guess what? Like you said earlier, and don't think I didn't hear you. Them babies see everything we do.
Everything.
And they emulate everything. I can't stand it sometimes, dog, because you know what? I be getting ready to get dressed to go out, and I got a bow tie and shirt on and everything, and I be on the phone talking, and next thing I know, I look in Johannes' room, guess what he got on? He got a bow tie and shirt on just like me. They emulate, just like, dog, I don't have socks on my feet, and I'm fussing at him. Boy, put some socks on your feet, because, you know, we grew up saying, keep socks on your feet, because that's the fast way you get sick. Now I'm sitting here on the couch without socks on, and I'm fussing at him about not having socks on. He's just emulating me.
Yeah, that's it.
And so when we understand the characteristics that we build among ourselves as far as a people is concerned, and how important it is, if a female doesn't have a male presence in that household, then it's our job, it's our responsibilities as men of the tribe, as a village in the black community, to step up and say, hey, I will be your son's mentor. I'll be the guiding force in your child's life, because you know what? He needs a male force in his life. I would never, if I had a daughter, I would never take away from the opportunity of a woman being in that child's life, because I understand that importance too. I put it back to you, brother. I see your hands. I see your motion.
No, man, like,
go ahead,
because it's when you were talking about it, how the kids listen and see everything. I'm gonna ask this question: what if we found out that the children of the planet was the third eye?
What was that now?
What if we found out that the children, the youth of this planet, is the third eye, the all-seeing eye?
Oh, I agree with you.
I'm telling you, because put like this, there are more children than there are adults running around here, right? So now, what if you just find out that children see everything and they emulate everything? The children are reflectors of what they see in the world. So if somebody sits up here and say, man, what's wrong with the kids? The kids are showing us what's wrong with us.
They're just showing you our mistakes. They're showing what we're doing wrong.
The kids are mirrors. The kids are reflectors. If we're the emulators, they're the reflectors.
Yeah, you can't. You got it. And my thing is, and I'm glad you brought that up. I'm trying to teach Johannes, when I punish him, I'm only going to punish him for when he does things that he shouldn't do. And let me define what I mean. If Johannes broke something, that's not a punishable offense in my book. If he comes to me and said, Daddy, I made a mistake, I broke something, and my thing is, I'm gonna be mad, but I ain't gonna punish him. But if I say, Johannes, what did you do with some food or something like that? Oh, I didn't do nothing with it, Daddy. I ate it, and I go and look in the trash can and see the food wasn't eaten. Then then that's a punishable offense in my book. Yeah. And my thing is, I try to make sure I can construct discipline to be tied to a punishable offense.
Facts.
Because my thing is, the best thing I could ever teach him in recourse wise is making sure we punish him for the right reasons and not just punish him just to be punishing.
Just recreational punishment.
And I think a lot of people have lost context to the difference in punishing people when you should and when you shouldn't punish people. And I'm not saying if a child breaks something, it's not a punishable offense. But what I am saying is, accidents happen, and you got to evaluate if it's a true accident or something. Now, mind you, if I say, Johannes, don't bother the computer, and I come back 2 hours later and Johannes bothered the computer and he broke it, then the offense is not that he broke the computer. The offense is he didn't follow my directions. You understand the difference? There's a big difference in that conversation. And I think that a lot of times we don't put context into why we do or what we do when we do. And so with that being said, I just want to make sure that's understood, that we work in those contexts, because I say all that to say what you said earlier in our conversation. A lot of our kids are being punished for non-punishment offenses.
Yep, sure
And my
are.
thing is, when they
Right.
being punished for non-punishment offenses, then I'm gonna piggyback on what you said. Then they looking left and they looking right. They know not to run, not to walk, not to do anything. They don't
Can't
know
do
what to
nothing.
do because the simple fact is, in their mind, they don't understand the offense of what they did. And you know where we messed up in society is we stopped being teachers. We
Facts.
stopped being teachers. We stopped being disciplinary people like police officers. We stopped being in those roles where we can protect our own. And what we've done is we've given those roles to other groups and other cultures and other people. And then we expect them to be fair and honest to us when they
Right.
come from a different
Right.
culture. They come from a different
Right.
understanding. I always say this, Doc, if you don't like the police officer, then guess what? Become the police officer. So guess what? We can have people from our area to take care of what we got to take care of. But when
The
we
line.
when we are waiting on some, well that boy over there, he treat my child unfair and honest. And then you look and I look at the police precinct and there's no representation of that community from that police precinct, and that ain't even a color thing there, brother. There's no representation of that community on that police precinct.
Right.
Then we expect it's going to be an unfair, biased opinion
Facts.
brought to us. And guess what? We're going to be fighting harder than we should ever be fighting before, because
Right.
it should be our obligation to make sure that we have police officers that are from that community. We have teachers who are from that community. And my thing is, and I challenge the community all the time, what are we doing to make sure that we're promoting young people to become teachers, to become lawyers? We've lost lawyers. We've lost doctors. Think about it. Think about when we were segregated and we were in our own. We had our own banking system. We had our own lawyers. We had our own doctors. We had our own teachers. And guess what? We were
Right.
far more educated, far more advanced than what we are right now to this day in society with all this technology. We were better off back then because you know what? We understood as a people we had to take care of our own. We know we couldn't go to cross the street to the doctor. So guess what? We had our own doctors. We had our own people. What happened to that mentality? We started becoming dependent once we got desegregated. And guess
Right.
what? We just gave up on our mission. I'm sorry, Doc. Go ahead.
I
You
will
got
put
it.
like this. I will put like this. It's easy to get. It's easy to give up when you've been bombed into integration. Now, remember we talked about Tulsa. That was just one of the many Black Wall Streets that was around the country, right? One of the things that I have to keep reminding myself, because no one just gives up without some type of conflict or battle. So like, and that's one of the things that's the reason why true history, accurate history, and contextual history has to be repeated right along with some of the elements that we're dealing with, right? And I have to remind myself every day when I'm teaching in class, I need to talk about the issue, but I got to talk about the history of the issue. The
Yeah.
issue just don't pop up because
That's too
sometimes,
important, dog. You got to say that again, man. It's too important. 'Cause
yes,
I don't think we
we
think about that deep enough, man.
got to talk about the issue, but you have to talk about it in a historical context. Because guess what happens when we start talking about issues without putting it into context, people will start internalizing like they are the issue, and that's what we're
Yes.
going to have to nip in the bud. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I used to think, you remember the segregation issue, the segregation topic was like, or integration topic, it was like, why do we just give up ours and just go for theirs? I thought that was true until I found out about the amount of terrorism.
Oh
We
yeah.
got we got bombed into integration. Like when people were being lynched, when people were just being just obliterated, we didn't have any authority just to literally protect. I mean, what black precinct existed? And don't get me wrong, I don't know. But the question is, how many black precincts existed in the early 1900s? When Reconstruction was taking place, where all of that lynching was going on, when Tulsa, just because, and I ain't gonna lie to you, the reason why we know about Tulsa, Tulsa was just one of the few that was documented with films and pictures. We got a lot of them that it really popped off, but then not only did the city go, all the evidence was burned. So only thing you
Rosewood,
understand what I'm saying?
Wilmington, North
So
Carolina, West
so
Virginia.
guess what?
Come on, man.
So guess what? We are subjected by the oral traditions of the ancestors that were even hunted down, so they couldn't even pass down what happened. You understand what I'm saying? What they and I'm gonna be honest with you. What if you found out during Reconstruction they were getting rid of the elders? What village? How valuable is a village when the elders are removed? Do you have a village without the elders?
Mm-mm.
That's a good question. You understand what I'm saying? So right now, and that's a beautiful thing because I'm not gonna lie to you, we have gotten to a point where if we don't know history, we're repeating it without knowing it. However, if we don't know the accurate history, we will be repeating a narrative, not necessarily history. There's a difference between a narrative and history, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm finding it out more and more each day.
You mean
A
you mean
narr-
you mean you mean his story?
yes, no. Put like
His
this.
story?
I'll put like this. I would say there's a difference between narrative and history, and there is a difference between history and truth.
Yeah.
All right. There's a difference between narrative and history, and there's a difference between history and truth. I'm gonna tell you the difference. A narrative is political. It's painting a picture that may not be real history, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
one thing about history, history has is deeper than a narrative, but it is still edited because if you were not there to witness it, you're subjected to what somebody wrote down, and they still can't give you the whole picture. Now, truth is the end all be all. That's something that's relied on either you are eyewitness or based off the information that was collected so far, you're forced to use your common sense to decipher between the narrative and the history so you can get to the truth. Because right now, history, like literally, history and math has to complement. History has to add up in order to be the truth. There has to be math in history. The dates got to line up. The locations got to line up. The people got to line up. The numbers. Think about how many numbers they throwing at us about the slave trade. No one has given us consistent numbers. We haven't seen the records. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but at the end of the day, if we don't really understand that information, we're passing down a narrative, not history and truth. So put like this: any narrative going unchecked too long becomes a spell. And guess what happens? Anybody under a spell, they'll swear they're telling the truth when they're only telling the narrative. So let me say this, and I'll let you close, Brother Jones. I wanted to give some solutions because one thing we don't do as
Oh yeah.
men, we're not going to talk about issues and problems
And
without
walk away and not give solutions.
right. That's not what we're here for, right? So we want to talk about what concerns us, but we're going to talk about what we can do. All right. So now, the good teachers. Remember, I talk about the things that I see in the school system that need to be addressed. That does not mean that the school system is has no recollection of good teachers that know what they're doing. That is not what we're talking about on this show. Our job is to make sure that we talk about the things that need to be talked about and shine light on things that may be in the dark. So the good teachers who are doing the right thing know how to mobilize and know how to keep themselves from going insane and getting burnt out. Because I put like this: if you know how to play the game, the opportunity for you to get blindsided will diminish. All right. So if you're a good teacher, if you're a good hearted teacher, you need to make sure that you can explain to all the children that you see are being targeted in your school. Make sure you practice with them how to accurately communicate about what's happening. If you see certain kids that are being targeted in your school and they're not being protected by some of the authority figures, the other teachers or whatnot, teach them what to do because now you know they're targeted. If you're in the teachers lounge and you're having staff meetings and team meetings and we're in there talking about we need to keep an eye on him because I need to watch him because he rubs me the wrong way.
Profiling.
You need to, that is profiling. That is, you know what? I ain't even using the word profiling. That child is being hunted.
Yeah.
Period.
Stick to the goal. Stick to the goal.
The child is being hunted. Now, guess what? Now, if you know a child is being hunted and you call yourself a good teacher, you may politically can't just blow up everything because now, when I say blow up everything, meaning just blow the whistle. That's what I'm talking about. But what you possibly can do is bring that child to you and teach them the game. Let them know how to protect themselves and let them know how to logistically move to a safe spot. If they're in a room where you know for a fact that the teacher is targeting them, You need to tell that kid, hey, when you go into this room today, make sure you sit here. When this happens, you need to walk here, this way, whatever, right? I'm going to give you an example. When I did my internship for school counseling a long, long time ago in 2008, I had a student there that was targeted by a teacher, right? I told this student specifically, hey, and next time you get targeted by the teacher, you don't say anything. Walk out of the classroom and you walk directly to my office. He was like, you sure? I said, I ain't never been more sure in my life. Jones, I ain't even worked there. I wasn't a paid employee. I was an intern. But I knew how that targeting, that hunting can go. And I proved it to the young man. Guess what happened? One day, the teacher allowed a person from European descent to call this young man the N-word. Didn't do anything, didn't protect him. The kid got so mad he was about to physically assault the guy, but he remembered what I said, so he walked out of the room and walked directly to the counselor's office to me. He walked in, he said, Mr. Pugh, this stuff happened again. I told you about it. And I said, calm down, calm down. Brother Jones, in maybe like 10 seconds, the teacher bust in the room.
Mad.
Bust in the room.
Mad.
Walk past me. And she put her finger in her face. I told you, you can't keep running down him to him every time you got a problem. And I said, there we go. Like, bingo. So that's the reason. And it put like this. Sometimes in order to understand the hunt, sometimes you can trap the hunter. That was debate. That's why I told them when I was trying to teach those kids about the hunting mechanism in a system like that, sometimes you can trap the hunter if you're careful. Because now if he would have fell into her trap, I could not help him. I told him, when you're being targeted, retreat to a safe spot. He came to me and the hunter came in my trap. Now I'm a witness about her abuse of the child in the school. See, right now,
everything that boy been saying been true the whole time, but he had finally got a witness.
And when I got there, he was on the list. He was on the discipline referral list. He was the troublemaker. And he told me straight up, Mr. Pugh, you're the first person that treated me like a human being. The first person. You're the only one that believed me. And I said, look, man, I don't care about your record. And I showed him mine. I care. Put like this. This is what they don't know. I had my discipline referral record from back in the day. I take it with me in the schools. I show it to him. I said, dude, I have a record too. I speak your language. And a lot of people don't understand the language is the culture and the culture is the language. How you treat people is how you really speak to them. Period. Last but not least, if you're a parent and you really need resources, and a lot of parents are being stressed out right now, Brother Jones, one thing I'm going to ask a parent right now, if you are stressed out, you're dealing with your student. I know a lot of mothers right now are dealing with teenage boys and teenage young ladies. The hormones are everywhere. The pandemic is here. Kid is in the house. They're irritated. They're on the computer screen all day. Now you got people who I got students right now that are running away from home. We're not talking about that, Brother Jones. So right now, what I'm asking parents, this is what I'm going to say. And if it rubs the wrong way, so be it, because children could possibly lose a life. If you're a parent and you're not necessarily in a marriage right now where you're co-parenting in the same household, if you know good and well that what you're doing is not working, please consider that child living with the other parent so you won't lose your child. I'm going to say that again. You may be the best parent in the world, but things may not be working. For the sake of saving your child, consider letting that child live with the other parent so they can have a shot at making it out of this. I'll leave it at that because everybody knows exactly who I'm talking about. Not an individual person, but that scenario. Everybody's seen it. We have a lot of parents that are holding on to children because they've recruited it. They're trying to hold children because they want to prove they're a better parent. And it's not about being a better parent. It's making sure the child is in a better situation. Stop competing for your children's love and put them in a position where they can actually flourish in life and be the best human being possible. Jones, is on you, man. I didn't mean to go that far.
Yeah, man. I got Adrian saying it's confusing on some parts of the discussion. If you can't clarify what parts of the discussions are confused, so we can kind of give clarity to the narrative and keep you focused, man. Because I don't want nobody confused by anything we say. I want us to understand that the energy we bring to the table is energy, is resources that coming from being in those systems, being in those environments, and seeing some of this culture, be abused or being taken advantage of, or whatever you want to call it, and trying to provide difference of resources to the game is very important. When you first met me 8, 9, 10, 15 years ago, one of the big things that I was doing when I was a single person was I had a mentoring program, and I mentored close to 70, 80 African American males in high school. And God knows I hated it because
Oh yeah.
I hate dealing with somebody who just as big as me and think they know just as much as me, and trying to get them on the right narrative. But it taught me a lot about being a good parent. And I encourage, and I think I told everybody from the collegiate side, if you ever want to learn how to be a good parent, be a good mentor, because being a good mentor is probably one of the best things that taught me how to be a good parent.
Oh yeah, that's
Because
practice.
being a mentor from 2008 when Johannes was born in 2012, that it was a cakewalk being a parent because I'd already had that mentoring experience all those years before. But being a mentor in this community, it brought me into focus of understanding some of the problems that these kids go through. Especially come from single parent households or coming. I had a parent who, the mother was working 60, 70 hours a week, and she was never home, and she was just struggling, just trying to provide for that child, and she never was there to give him the resources to keep him in aid as far as making sure, he did well in school and everything like that. And because of that, because he had so much anger and anxiety, and he hated anything that came before him that challenged him. I always tell you this story. I can talk about it now. I taught biology at one point in time, and he was my student. And we was in the class, and I was like, man, you don't sit your butt down, and get ready for class. And he had all that built up aggression, I guess, from whatever situation was going on. And he said, you don't talk to me like that, mother. What? And I'm like,
oh yeah,
whoa.
Very familiar with it.
And so I said, hold tight. And the classroom like, ooh, Mr. Jones, you ain't gonna take that. Ooh, you ain't gonna take that, Mr. Jones. I said, hold. I said, hold just a second. I need y'all. It's gonna be a pop quiz on I think it was chapter 12 of the book right here. Y'all got 15 minutes to have it. And when I get back in here, y'all better be ready for this pop quiz. And I took his behind to the restroom right next door. And we opened up the bathroom door. And I said, man, look here, man. Come on. You want a piece of me? Come on, you got full rights. You get me. Whatever happened here is between me and you, man. It's whatever. It's between me and you. Whatever, man. Yeah. Come on, man. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And instead of him wanting to fight me, he broke down in tears, man.
Of course.
And when he broke down in tears, he explained his problem to me, he explained his story to me and everything like that. And the thing was, at 14 years old, he had nobody. To confine his problems, his issues, him being bullied, him being called names, him being stressed about trying to find his own way, his own meal, him not having a parent around. He had to deal with all this stuff right here. And my thing is, this is what kids have to, and mind you, he old enough to get a job. You got other kids who ain't even had they ain't even old enough to get a job who go through these same scenarios. And so my thing was, me and him had a good conversation after that. Brother, that semester, we kept focused with each other. I helped him. The only class he passed was my class now. I'll give you that too. But the thing is, I saw him 4 or 5 years later, and he said, Mr. Jones, man, I'm just having a hard time. He had been in and out of jail now because he's old enough to be in jail now. And he said, man, I said, young man, here's my number. Call me, man. I can't help you if you don't reach out and allow me to help you. And, he called me from jail. I worked out some issues. I got with the sheriff, worked out some issues. It wasn't nothing high level. It was some issues where we can get him talked to. But my thing is, dog, and he was 15 when I caught him. I'm hearing this kids, Johannes' age, they go through that kind of stuff at 8, 7, 6, 5 years old, going through this kind of stuff and struggling in those kind of environments. And at one point in time, we had the school where we can go to the school, and now with this virtual learning, a mama, she got to go to work. That means that child staying home by themselves because they can't afford daycare. And my thing is, it goes back to government. Government's not putting in structures to make sure we take care of these kind of environments. And so I want to research. It was a story I learned a long, long time ago about a teacher. And it was a little boy named Johnny. And in the first grade, he was the brightest student in the class. He did everything. above warmer, everything like that. Talked about his family life being the greatest thing since sliced bread. And when he went to the second grade, he started feeling sad about life, and things wasn't always as happy-go-lucky as it was before, but he still was happy. And in third grade, he got despondent, started pushing away, and stopped dealing with people in the class, and just was looking crazy and everything like that. And then and then the fourth grade came, he became combative, abusive, and everything like that under the sun. And then guess what? The fourth grade teacher was in the break room talking to the fifth grade teacher and said, "Yeah, you don't want that Johnny. Johnny's a menace to society. He's going to be a criminal. He's going to be a problem child. He's going to be this. He's going to be that. He's going to be, he's not going to be worth anything in society." And so that fifth grade teacher, she gets Johnny. And when Johnny, before Johnny can even get out of place, the fifth grade teacher said, "Look here, I already know where you come from.
Targeting.
You're not going to come in my class, and you're not going to be disruptive. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that." And then guess what? When that fifth grade teacher had a conversation with Johnny, that's when she realized that Johnny's attitude changed when Johnny's mother had died in the third grade. But rather than that third grade teacher or fourth grade teacher try to identify the reason why Johnny was out of place, they had judged him. And so what that fifth grade teacher did was, from that day forward, instead of judging him, she built him. And then what she did then was, when he graduated from the fifth grade to sixth grade, she said, "Here's my number, Johnny. If you need anything, give me a call." Johnny went back and called her from the sixth grade to the fifth grade. And guess what? She was a resource to Johnny in the sixth grade. She was a resource to Johnny in the seventh grade, and the eighth grade, and the ninth grade, and the 10th grade. And she was a resource all the way up to the 12th grade year. And he became the valedictorian of the high school. And guess what? He gave a shout out to that teacher. And someone just put the name of the story in the chat line. He gave a shout out to that teacher. And guess what? That teacher said, "This ain't where you stop. You continue to go on." And he went off to college, and he was struggling in college. And guess what the teacher told him? "You can do it." That teacher stayed with him the whole time. You can do it in college. You can do it and become a PhD. And he became a PhD. He gave a shout out to his teacher. And then it came to a point where he got married. And he needed a female to walk him down the aisle. And he asked his fifth grade teacher to walk him down the aisle, because you know what? She was the one who, instead of judging him and calling him out and doing everything under the sun, she was the one who took the time to walk with him and walk with him all those years in his life. And guess what? Dr. Pugh, it's just some kids just need that one person to come into their life, and it will change the direction. It will change the course of that child. Did you get to read what Adrian was talking about?
Yeah, I'm gonna read it out loud real quick. He says, "The disciplining. I am also a teacher with the school system, and I dealt with a student that had anger issues and couldn't listen to other teachers. I decided to be that male role model, and I did keep my eye on him, but in a good way, not in a hunting way. I wanted to make sure he was behaving and on task. I thought I was making a difference because he would listen to me and stay calm when I was present. When I was present. I sub in his class off and on, and he just act up and didn't listen. That is why when it comes to disciplining when in the school, is it needed and when is it not?" All right. So now check this out. Let me be clear what Adrian is talking about. And let me be clear what I was saying, just in case if it was confusing. When it's about the intent. If you're keeping your eye on someone because of a negative intent, that is hunting. Because we were talking about in a negative context at the time. We were talking about when teachers create a narrative about a child and they create a description that this child fits. They fit a description pretty much like in a court of law. So they're saying, "I'm keeping my eye on you like he's a fugitive, like he's on the run, like he's being hunted." Now, on the other hand, I'll give you this. Based off what Adrian just said, I'm going to give you another scenario. If your intent is good, you can keep your eye on him like a plant. You water him, make sure he has sunlight, he has everything that he needs. That is also keeping your eye on him, but you're gardening, you're not hunting. So those are two different scenarios. Why are you keeping your eye on that student? Are you hunting or are you gardening? Hopefully I cleared that up.
And the other thing, I want to talk from a mentoring perspective, because, from the Mentoring 100 way, I was a trainer for the 100 Black Men, and I did all that stuff with the Collegiate 100 and all that. What I learned is this: And Adrian, this might be a keynote piece to it.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that as much as I love mentoring, as much as I love helping somebody or helping people, I may not be the right person that can help that person. It might just need to be somebody else who needs to step into the role of helping that person. And a lot of times, and my thing is, I at first, Dr. Pugh, I used to take that thing personal. That if I could not be that person that can change that child's life, I used to take that personal. But as I got older in life, I just realized that sometimes it takes the right kind of sugar to make that Kool-Aid sweet. And and sometimes you think that you're doing somebody a great service, but
Facts.
instead you're doing them a disservice and you're not
Right.
helping that person. And so
Crippling.
what I did, and I learned this over time, is if I'm not as strong in my approach from the beginning, I'm weaker in my approach from the beginning because I need to make sure the fix is there for me to be able to work with that person.
Right.
Because if it's not, then I need to pull back and find a mentor that works better for that person. And my thing is, I'm also wise and strong enough to understand that it may not be my guidance that can help that person. It may just need a Dr. Pugh or somebody else to be able to step into the gate and guide that child in the right direction. So,
Right.
and Adrian said, you did. Thank you for doing what you got to do.
No
Man,
problem.
I was looking for
Yeah,
my
man.
good friend. She finally comments on here. Miss Stacy, she joined us. The community is
Right.
not as strong as it used to be. It takes a village attitude. It takes a village attitude isn't there anymore. And I agree with
Right.
you wholeheartedly. We need to be gardeners and not hunters. I agree with you wholeheartedly again. And my
Facts.
thing is, and we also got to understand when we have lost our usefulness, we got to pull ourselves and allow somebody to garden us too. Because sometimes we get stuck in the gate so long and so hard, even when we're trying to be gardeners, we become hunters. And
Right.
that can be problematic if we don't have the right circle around us to keep us informed of what our true mission should be about. So those are the only points I just really wanted to really focus on and talk about.
Facts.
Appreciate it,
Yes, sir.
Everett. As far as the awesome dialogue, we aim to please.
Easy.
We try to do what we got to do as far as making sure we give away content. It's not about the likes. It's not about the viewers. I already
No.
understand. As controversial as I can be sometimes, people don't look at it while I'm live. Some people wait till the midnight hour and come back and look at this stuff. And I appreciate that. They don't want to be called out, and I don't want to call them out.
That's
And I
they
go
call
back
it
and I look.
that's stalking support.
Hey,
That's
bro,
support
and I
stalk.
appreciate all the supporters we got because all we
real.
want to do is drop jewels and knowledge out there in the community.
Facts.
Because the more jewels we put in the community, the better our community is, man.
Facts.
And,
That's
and
true.
so that's what we're just trying to make sure we become a plethora of energy. We got our own cliches, and I haven't said it but one time, and that was the cliche that we always say. Dang, I just lost my cliche. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Don't get caught by that itis.
Yeah.
Don't, whatever you do, our new cliche we picked up since we started doing the show again was don't get stuck in that barrel. That
Yeah,
barrel
the
ain't
crab.
nothing but trouble. That crabs in the
Yeah.
barrel mentality is nothing
Yeah,
but
man.
trouble, man. And we had somebody want to fight us and say, man, we ought to be happy to be in the barrel. And someone even tried to tell me that crabs are actually trying to push each other out the barrel. And I know I done looked at barrels 1,000 times in my lifetime because
Yeah.
I love me some crabs. I love me some crabs to death. And every time I looked in them crabs, that crab barrel, them crabs are doing nothing but pulling each other down. And you can't
Right.
tell me you pushing somebody up and then I see a limb in somebody's hand. That's not pulling somebody up. That's pulling somebody down. That's not only just pulling them down, but that's tearing them
Facts.
apart. And so my
Facts.
thing is we are fervent believers as far as making sure we destroy the barrel. And my thing is, we don't really necessarily say destroy the barrel, but hey, create your own environment, create your own surface, and create your own dwelling. Don't let nobody tell you what your niche should look like. You should know what your niche should look like yourself. And my thing is, I tell this to every young man, young woman in the world. Hey, there's nothing that can stop you from doing what you got to do. I don't care what situation you come from. You can do it if you truly believe. And I understand that sounds good and dandy, and you might come from a hardcore situation that may not sound good and dandy. But guess
Right.
what? Trouble don't last forever. And guess what? You can find your way out of those things, and there are plenty of resources out there to make things happen. And
Just-
so my thing is surround yourself around positive people,
Right.
and you will become more positive in your life.
I'll put like this, Jay, just to compliment what you just said, and I want everybody to hear me loud and clear. Hopefully you'll understand this. The crabs in the barrel act way differently than the crabs that are on the beach. The environment is different. The crabs in the barrel act different than the crabs on the beach. You know why. One is natural, one is not. Your environment can influence your behavior. One is a trap. And remember, I put like this. What if they put a radio right outside that barrel and gave you trap music?
Yeah,
I'll leave it right there.
One is a trap for fools.
What if they gave you some music and gave you entertainment and make you think the barrel was the best thing?
And you know what? I just thought about it. They call it trap music, man.
That's the barrel music.
God dang, I ain't never put that together until you
Think
broke
about
it
it
down like that. Trap music.
Crab in the barrel. And don't get me wrong, I'm not judging.
I love me some trap music now.
I like trap. Put like this.
For entertainment purposes.
I like the trap beats, the trap lyrics is some whole different level. I
agree.
I literally take the lyrics out and I have to ask the kids who they listen to, and I print their lyrics out and make them read it. And when the kids read it for the first time, they're thinking. They're like, oh, I didn't know he was saying that. I said, the beat is mesmerizing, man. You know, you don't know what you're saying. You don't know what they're saying, but it's literally getting into your soul. I can't tell you not to listen to it.
We got to do a show on that because I know me and you had a deep conversation about this about 4 or 5 years ago about the power of music and how music influences the soul, and mind, and everything like that.
The word music comes from the word muse. Which is inspiration. So guess what happens? Inspiration is your internal spirit. The words that come out of your mouth is full of, the spirit in your body. That's inspiration.
Got you fighting for your spirit and
your spirit and your mind. Exactly. That's the Goody Mob, man. The beautiful thing about Goody Mob and Outkast, Dungeon Family put their lyrics in their CDs, bro. And without that, my mother wouldn't even let me listen to them.
Good die mostly over bullshit.
Exactly. So she was like, guess what she told me? This is the thing. It made me appreciate hip hop. She said, if you gonna have to read something, you can read whatever you want. I said, shoot, if I can read as I'm listening to music, she said, yeah. I said, well, I'm going to just read the lyrics and just rock out with the music. And she said, yeah, fine. Let me see them. And she saw the lyrics. She said, yeah, I want you to listen to them from now on. I like what they're talking about. So Goody Mob helped my mom just really open the door to hip hop, man. My mom gave me my first hip hop CD. My mom gave me Public Enemy, that single, Can't Trust It. Yeah. So hey, shout out to Ma Dukes, man. She put me on the hip hop. Straight facts.
Oh man. That was a classic there.
Once she knew what it was talking about, she said, no, you finna listen to this here.
That was a classic there.
Facts. It definitely was.
That was a
definitely
classic.
Was. And shout out to my class the other day. The other day we did we tried to tie in hip hop to political consciousness. We showed the 13th documentary, but I showed Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5. The message. So I played the message. Then we played the 13th documentary where they were talking about the school to prison pipeline and the mass incarceration boom in the 80s. The message had the same scenery that they had in the movie 13th. Wow. And so hip hop is history, man. If you know how to activate hip hop, it's the deepest curriculum out there. If you know how to use it.
Now let me go and clarify. We're not talking about trap music. We ain't talking about rap. We're talking about hip hop.
Listen. It's nothing. Put like this. There's nothing wrong with trap music. The only thing wrong with trap music is people may not be understanding what they're doing. You see what I'm saying?
You don't make it into a way of life.
Yeah. Well, see, this is the thing. Anytime when you listen to music without a critical thought process, that is a trap.
I got you.
You see what I'm saying? Trap music is listening to something that you really don't understand because it's catchy. You see what I'm saying? That's a trap in itself. It's almost like, if somebody casts a spell on you, you don't know it's a spell, but it sounds good, but it's really a spell. Think about this, man. Like I remember we used to go to the club and they used to tear the club up. Guess what people did?
Tear the club up. I remember them days.
You understand what I'm saying?
I remember them days.
I can't listen. The music that I listen to, I went to Georgia Southern University. I went to Legends every weekend. I am not in the place to judge kids' music.
R.I.P. Legends.
You understand what I'm saying? I'm literally not in a position to judge music and say, you shouldn't listen to that. Man, I said, no. I said, you bring the baby, I'll bring Lil Jon and the East Side Boys. You know what I'm saying? I said, I'm going to show you how ignorant I was back in the day. You know what I mean? And I still listen to Lil Jon and the East Side Boys because after I listen to Lil Jon, we're gonna go right over here and listen to Rakim.
I listen to. I mean, Lil Jon, what the crunk music, all that.
Yeah.
What's your boy?
Oh
Bone
yeah.
Crusher, all that. I
Yeah.
remember all
Heck
of them.
yeah. Heck
That
yeah.
Atlanta was on fire back
No,
then.
Atlanta
boy.
and Memphis. It was
Golly,
nothing but
man.
Atlanta and Memphis music in my tape deck
That's
every
it.
day. It was
A-Boy
number.
MJG.
That's it. That is it.
A-Boy.
I would listen to Player Fly, Gangsta Black,
UGK, all them boys, man.
You know, Scarface.
Ghetto Boys,
Yes.
all them, man.
And we're not gonna leave out Uncle Luke. Uncle Luke was the ambassador of getting yourself in trouble.
No, that's gonna be
Yeah,
right,
bro.
yeah.
Like, come on now. Hey, I put like this.
But at the same time,
yep.
Eric B. Rakim,
Yeah.
what's his name? Special Ed.
Yeah, the teachers.
Tribe Called Quest. Leaders of New School. KRS-One. De La Soul.
Yeah, all day.
I used to listen to all that.
Hey, what you know about Camp Low? What you know about?
What you know about Camp? You ain't old enough to know about Camp Low.
Oh man, Lucini is one of my favorite songs.
What's his name? Where he passed too? Ja Rule. Not Ja Rule.
Oh my God. You just made Ja Rule die.
No, not Ja Rule. The other one, I can't think of his name, but he. Dang, I'll get with you after this, but yeah, all of them, man.
It's not Jam Mason J, is it?
No, Black Sheep.
Arrested Development.
Guru. I always got him and Ja Rule.
Yeah.
Guru
I don't know
if
you ever listen to Arrested Development out of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Oh, Arrested Development, My Everyday People. Oh my God.
Tennessee,
yes. Bro. I'm telling you, man. I in the 80s.
But see, that's the difference. But dog, that's the difference. That's the difference. We had conscious music and unconscious music.
Right.
Where's the conscious music at for this generation?
Right. And see, guess what happens? Their conscious music is there. It's just edited out the way. They have been removed. And the only thing, see, put it like this, we had the trap and the tree of life back when I grew up. We had the trap and the tree. Right now, they only got the trap.
And that's it.
So
they live and be the guidance of the trap.
Yeah. And see, this beautiful thing is when we were growing up, we had a choice between the trap and the tree. You know what I'm saying? We go to the trap a little bit. We ain't eating good. Go to the tree, get fulfilled. We happy. And then we like, all right, the trap looks a little intriguing. Let's go over here, make sure we don't die. And then come back over here to the tree so we can get some life in. But right now, they have no tree of life in what they're listening to. And so that's the reason why we got to just constantly. Right now, I remember all of my mentees at Georgia Southern, I used to force them to listen to Outkast and Get 'Em Up before we did it.
We didn't even talk about the guys Outkast, Goody Mob, Dungeon Family. We didn't even talk about them. You know,
that's it. You got
even to a degree, Jay-Z was Flip Mode, Nas.
Yes.
Oh man, we can go.
Everybody.
Biggie. And Biggie, Tupac.
Yes, man. Yes.
And my thing is, and a lot of that, I didn't even get a lot of that northern exposure until I actually went off to college. And that's when I got exposed to because we go to NCO and it'd be the 245 mix, and you getting that Luke, you getting that you getting all that, the booty shaking music that's down here that was prevalent down here.
Yeah.
And so my thing is, I didn't really see conscious music until I went off to college, and we were blessed in 92, 93 when Outkast dropped their album my senior year in high school.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bam, I walked into a blessing with Outkast 95, 94, 90, 93, and then 97, and then Goody Mob dropped that album in 94, 95 and Dungeon Family, and then all them boys just dropped albums and stuff like that, man.
It was ridiculous, man.
Don't get caught by the eyes, you right, Sleeping. Sir Dippity, that's a good friend of mine. Great guy. I gotta get y'all two together. Poor Righteous Teacher, you're absolutely right, Johnny. Right. Poor Righteous Teacher was on it too. Right. Well, we're gonna get over. We about 2 minutes over an hour and a half, y'all. But don't get caught by the itis.
Facts.
We got touched by the itis on the music stuff. We just got hyped by that music stuff because we talk about this all the time. But we're gonna have a show just talking about the consciousness of music and how it affects the brain and this society.
Yes, we are.
I got it for me to do it. I got to do a deep dive on some of the music that's out there right now, prevalent out there.
Right.
Not the Beckys and the Busted Babies and all that stuff like that. It was around 5-6 years ago. But what goes on? There are some, and I'm gonna take that back. That song Black. I don't know the guy who sings the song, but it's a deep conscious song. It's called Black.
Really?
It's called Black, 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 and,
All right.
and it
Oh,
breaks down
okay.
all kind of connotations tied to black. So and when
Gotcha.
I get it, I'll send it to you.
Gotcha.
But they
Please
do
do.
have 1 or 2 song tracks out there every blue moon.
Please do.
But don't get caught by itis, y'all. We out of here.
Peace.
Peace.
Yep.